Games, 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 it's what we're going to play. Games, 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 to enjoy our day. Games, 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 it's what we're going to play. Games, 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 to enjoy our day. Here I have someone who published a good game, and their name's Peter Hazlewood. Peter, I've met at one or two cons where we happen to spy upon each other, and Pete made Tranquility. And this is one that Peter will now introduce to me. And Peter is doing a sequel very soon. And we might talk about this at the end before we leave this figurative room. Games, 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 it's what I'm talking about. Games, 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 we're not going to shout. Hello and good morning, good afternoon, good whatever it is, wherever people are. And this is Playful Shenanigans, where we do stuff every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday at 4 p.m. UK time. And just now we are playing Tranquility with Peter Hazlewood. And as always, there's going to be a wee bit of chatting. So yeah, thank you for joining me, Peter.
No, it's a great pleasure, of course.
And so can you tell people a little bit about who you are? Maybe, yeah, what you've been up to. Let's start there.
Fine, yeah. So I run Board Game Hub, a very small, essentially at the moment, one-person publishing company in southwest of England. And basically, the long story of starting this was that a friend and I, getting into board games and thinking, we could actually do something in the industry. And we wanted to create a sort of an indie hub, so a place to promote the work of independent retailers, specifically in the UK, but not exclusively. That was the original premise of the company. He then went off, he had a full-time job, and then he started a racing team. So he decided that probably running a third entity was probably a bit too much. So he left it to me. I started with Board Game Hub, and I was going along with this idea, and I started to think, if we're going to all the bother of creating an area where you can promote board games by indie publishers, why wouldn't we do our own publishing? I'm doing all the hard work. Why not promote our own games? So I somehow, Richard Denning took pity on me, I think, and he allowed me to go along to the publisher designer speed dating event at the Expo a couple of years ago. And I met James Emmerso there with his game originally called Hush. And the rest is history. We made Tranquility, and so this is effectively it is my full-time job. I'm somewhat a dad as well, but yeah.
And I find it very interesting. So I would like to talk about what happened with the sort of promotional websites and all that stuff. Looking at your website, it's pretty for Board Games Hub and everything else. Did it just fall by the wayside pretty much?
It became clear to me that it was way too much work for one person. I mean, for definite, an impossible job, really. I still like the idea. So you see there was a post about Scrumpy, which was Paul Harris's game that was on Kickstarter recently. I still like to promote the work of indie publishers, and I'm very happy to talk about them and to put blogs on and stuff. It just became clear that without significantly more resources and more people, the idea of the hub for the indie retailer or indie publisher, it wasn't something I could do on my own, really. And then the publishing did well. So I was kind of like, okay, let's shelve for now the indie stuff. We'll soft promote in a way. I'll work with other publishers, and I'm happy to talk about their stuff, and go about it in a more gentle way, and then we'll see how things go in the future, really.
It's really interesting, the nature of a publisher, how much self-promotion, how much promotion of other people. I think it's Nikita of Attican Games who has this newsletter where people can contribute wee bits. And obviously, like, I am, even though I haven't had as many Kickstarter backers as you got with Tranquility, you know, people might know me not just for Yogi, which really took off when Shigamic took it over, previously known as The Bind, but also for the L deck, previously known as Wibble++ and Kitty Cataclysm, which I am very proud of. And I've not sold masses, but, you know, I've sold out of 1,000, and I know it's not loads, but I mean, I do still really want to be. It's a weird one because you are clearly an organizational, managing type person trying to get this stuff done. And I remember, like, I worked actually by the hour for a few hours for you. I think it was a couple of days on some ideas that didn't quite pan out. There maybe wasn't enough clarity to those ideas, but yeah, I feel like I would love the L deck to become this big thing, but at the same time, I want to promote, like I've got you here, I want to play other people's games. I just love games. And it's this thing where you don't want to just be, oh yeah, this is my thing, this is my thing. Like Suzanne Sheldon, who works for Restoration Games, but even though it's not Suzanne's company, Suzanne's still very much there. But like, people are still saying, hey, this is a game that I'm a fan of. I enjoyed in the past week, I enjoyed Keyforge. I've enjoyed, you know, Happy City, like on Board Game Arena. Like, that was a fine game. I've been playing a wee bit of Roots digitally. And these are all games that I can say, you know what, I've enjoyed them. And it's like, how do you find that balance between wanting to say, hey, games are great, but seriously, please buy ours, by the way?
Yeah, it's a good question. For me, I'm not a marketer. I'm really not. I'm much more a creative person. I'm not the designer of Tranquility. You know, I haven't yet published a design of my own, but I am a developer, and I take an idea and then I'm going to run with it and I'm going to put my own stamp on it. I am much more comfortable doing a little bit of self-promotion, only a little bit, and then I love talking games. So, you know, I'm vain enough that I'd take invites like this all the time if I had them, because, you know, I just like talking games and talking to gamers and about pretty much anything. So
you say that, but I had to kind of talk you into it a tiny bit.
Well, purely from a selfish perspective in that, you know, as you said, we're building up to a sequel to Tranquility, and it's going live starting next month, end of next month. And now I was saying to you, I'd love to come on your show and I'd love to promote that, and it would be great if we could play that, but we can't. So it was a question of, okay, well, yeah, sure, I'd love to come on and I'll play Tranquility with you because it's fun and it's nice.
And it's still promoting you, for goodness sake.
Yeah, yeah, of course, yeah, absolutely.
I know that, and this is a weird thing again, because I get it. It's when you first do the prints run, you want to say, hey, we need to budget for this many people, and with the Kickstarter, if you have like one more backer, then that's going to feed into the algorithm, and there's the whole snowballing effect. Whereas if you have one more person buying your game right now, let's say I mean, it's not going to happen, but let's imagine that there were 10 people, and right now there are 10 people saying, oh my God, Tranquility, that's amazing. I'm going to buy a copy of the website right now. I mean, that would be nice for you, but it's not going to be like snowballing. It's going to have this long kind of viral impact. I don't know if you know Tim Fowers, who's a great proponent of saying board games are viral, assuming that they're not solitaire games, because you play them with other people, you want to share them, and so inherently they do spread in a very long way. And Tim Fowers always said every game, I don't know if it's changed for Tim, but I would be interested to catch up, because this was, I think, around the time when The Fugitive was coming out, maybe. So it's quite a while back, and Tim was basically saying, oh yes, every game, after 2 years, then the sales start to increase. and I keep going at it, keep going at it. So after 2 years, then the sales starts to increase. But I don't know how much universal truth there is there, and
no idea. I think I get the feeling that there's a heck of a lot of difference, even in the same publisher, between different games as to when they peak, how far they go, and sometimes I don't think it's entirely clear why something is a big success and other things don't work. I haven't got the answers, unfortunately.
But let's actually go and have a look at Tranquility, which I've written down. It's a peaceful cooperative game designed. Oh, wait a minute. I just realized I've missed the N of James Emmerso. That's not very good. There we go. Designed by James Emmerso, illustrated by Tristam Rossin, and published by Peter's company, Board Game Hub.
Answers.
So, let me look at what's going on, and you're going to talk us through this game a wee bit. Okay. What can I do?
I think if you I think if you close down the other slots and then you should be able to start it, perhaps. Right, because you said between 1 and 5. So if you limit it to 2, perhaps, or just do that.
Okay, there we go.
Okay. This is going to be really weird. I know I'm on camera, but I'm going to be off. I'm not going to be seeing it.
You're not going to be looking at me.
Well, not if I'm on Board Game Arena.
That's totally fair. I've got it kind of in 2 different windows.
I could probably do that.
You don't need to worry about it. It's all good.
Oh, no, that's good. Okay, and now I can see the comments as well, so hopefully. Okay, right. I've got to better get on with it because I've got 3 minutes 27 to take my turn. Okay, so this is a no communication cooperative game, essentially. So technically speaking, we're not really meant to speak. Of course, we can talk, but we're not going to tell each other what we're doing. And we've got this lovely 6x6.
You are going to tell me the rules.
I'm going to tell you the rules first.
What I would suggest is, how about we play it the first time, just casually, without conversation, and then we'll play it again properly.
Sure. Okay. Well, okay. So we've got a 6x6 grid that we've got to fill with numbered cards, and they number between 1 and 80. On your turn, you want to be playing a card into the grid, and they ascend from the very bottom left, and they go up. So from left to right along each row, and then it wraps around. So you then go up to the second row, and that wraps around to the third row. So you're always going left to right, bottom to top. So ideally, the lowest number will go in the bottom left-hand corner, and the highest number will go in the top right corner, which in theory would be 80.
Okay, so going left to right, you need to increase. Going bottom to top, you need to increase. But also this space, I don't know if my mouse is visible, on the second row of the bottom on the far left should be higher than anything on the bottom row. Is that correct?
I mean, it will be, just by definition. It's easier to imagine this as one long line of 36 cards, starting the bottom left is the lowest, going along to the top one. So that spot that you're pointing at, the left hand on the second row, that's adjacent to the card to its right and the bottom right.
Okay, I got it.
So if I choose a card, so on my turn, I either play a card or I discard 2 cards, and discards are face down. So there you go. It happened that I had the number 1 in my hand, so that's the perfect spot for it to go, bottom left-hand card. If you can't or don't want to play, then you can just discard 2 cards.
So, here.
Nice.
Okay. And on the screen, you can see my hand, but in reality, you shouldn't be able to see what goes on there.
Absolutely.
And I've got a card that says I must play the start card.
Okay. So we have to play a single start card between us. We both started with 1 in our deck, and yours happened to come out very early. Now, this is technically the only point in the game where we're allowed to communicate to a certain extent. We have to discard between us 8 cards.
Wow, 4 each.
Well, you can do it however you split. This is the only thing you can say. You can say, okay, I'm looking at my hand and I'm thinking, oh, okay, there's one I definitely can't get rid of, and there's another one I'd quite like to keep. as it happens, this happened really early in the game, so we're fairly at liberty to discard pretty much what we want, because we, if you keep in mind, so for instance, if you could see my hand now, I've got 3 in a range of 10. I probably won't discard all of those because it might make the grid quite tricky to complete. So maybe we'll do a mix and match. So I'll say to you, I'm happy to discard 4, and if you're happy to discard 4, then we can do that.
And a quick hello to Alex. Thank you for joining us. Just learning Tranquility. And just to double, and I've never played this before. I've not read rules, to be honest. But Peter, can you tell me, how do I lose?
As any player on their turn cannot take a go. So when you choose, or you're forced to play a card next to another card in the grid that's adjacent in the sequence, you have to discard between the 2 numbers. So if you play the 77 next to the 78, you have to discard 1. But if you play the 75, you'd have to discard 3 cards. So the main way you lose is that you were inefficient with your cards and you ran out of cards too quickly, meaning you couldn't play.
That makes sense. And hello, Ruda.
Hello.
And Ruda says hello to Peter as well. Thank you for greeting our guests.
Let's do that. Okay, so I've discarded my 4, and now we carry on.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, now I should tell you about finish cards. There are 5 shuffled randomly between the whole deck. So at the moment I've got 33 cards left. I don't know how many of those are finish cards. Could be 5 theoretically. We only need 1 to finish the game. So once we've completed the whole grid, we also have to play a finish card, and that goes in the top right spot, the very top right.
Okay.
But that has to be the last card. So what you can't do is discard 5 of those because you've lost.
Understood.
Okay, let's do.
So I will definitely play this. I must discard a card to play it.
So depending on what you're playing, you're discarding the difference between the 2 numbers, basically.
If you touch something, then you discard the difference. Is that?
That's it. Immediately adjacent on either side, effectively. Yeah. Okay. So you have to discard 1 card to play the 77 next to the 78. All right. Let's do.
And if it's touching 2 things, would you be?
You pay the lowest difference.
Okay. That makes sense.
That's quite forgiving in that respect. So you can, but basically that allows you to bridge an impossible gap, because you could have the 40 next to the 60. That's fine. If you can't play the 50 because that would be a discard of 10 and you don't have 10, but you could play the 41 or you could play the 59 and you'd only discard 1. So let's do. How confident are you feeling, Bez? Is this going all right?
I have no idea. I mean, it feels like there's a lot of discarding, and I feel like actually maybe playing adjacent is a really bad thing. Maybe I really should have been leaving more spaces and then filling up those spaces. That's what I'm wondering now.
So this game has a lot of emergent strategy. The first game you play, so you've immediately spotted, okay, I shouldn't be playing right next to other cards potentially, because then I have to keep discarding. And there's lots of things that you find out through repeated plays, which is nice. But I'm now looking at that and going, I can't believe you did that. Because
you had a 2.
I had the 2. Doesn't matter. I can.
Oh my gosh.
But you didn't know. So at some point I can discard that to pay for something else because I know I don't need it anymore. That's fine. That is what happens. Let's do.
Hello to the Hexy Beast. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, Hexy Beast.
And says, and hey, Peter. Oh man, I feel bad for you. It's like you're an afterthought.
Not at all. Well, I mean, yes, but it's your show.
Okay.
So also bear in mind, you can always just discard 2 cards if you really had to.
I could, but that seems like a terrible idea.
It's not always the worst move, because if you had to discard 3 or 4, that could lose you the game. Whereas discarding 2, maybe you're going to get a better card.
Okay,
it's not ideal.
if the game is all about not communicating and you're pretending that you haven't seen my hand, I'm still going to discard the cards to play this because it still seems pretty gosh darn good.
And remember that all discards are face down. So when you're playing, around a table, you're not getting any cues as to what people have got rid of. You don't know if there are any finished cards left, and you can't look at you can't look at your discard piles either. So you really have to, you have to be on the ball.
So let's see, there's 36. So you're skipping about half of the things. So actually this 20 feels like maybe it's a bit close, but
so we've got a question about plus or minus 1 to something on the board. Yes, that is the best card. If you're playing next to another card, being 1 away is the best. If we play this again afterwards,
it feels like if you had a wee jump and then playing in between them, that would be even better.
It depends. I mean, that's another thing, is that because the order the cards come out, every game is very different. You might have no cards below 20 for most of the game sometimes, and then you just have to, they're going to come out, so you just have to deal with what you're doing, what's happening on the board. Yes. So here, for example, I'm going to do 29 in there, and I'm going to pay the useless 2 that you that you basically made. It's complete rubbish.
Hexy Beast played it with Mark McKinnon of Wreck and Ruin fame. Just the other night. Okay, so I guess you must be, And okay, 60, 77. That's 17 away. So if I want to place this, I guess I put it here. I don't know.
Yeah, looks pretty good to me. So here's another thing. So I'm not giving much away because I'm going to play it. I've got a 40. Let's pretend the 48 wasn't on that next row. I don't really want to leave the 38 and the 39 now. What if we've already discarded the 39? I'm trying to manage this situation by saying, is that a risk I can afford to take? Obviously, I couldn't do that anyway this time because the 48's there, so I'd have to pay way too many. So I will just discard 2 cards.
Well, 72, 74. So I'm kind of going on the basis that I want to jump about 2 each time, so keep them broadly spread out, and hopefully we'll be able to fill in those gaps later on.
Absolutely. So let's discard that one.
Yes, nice. Okay, I have to discard the card.
Lovely. There, I've turned off the sound, the annoying sound.
So what was going on? Because I remember during the Kickstarter, you talked about the reflective nature of these cards, the fact that is that something that was informed by the game design, or?
No, that was. I like to take credit when it's due, and this is. I believe this was my idea, although it's that long ago, I can't be sure. Basically, I had the epiphany in the car one day with my wife Emma next to me, and I was like, "Okay, when you've got a really nice looking game, but let's say you've got 4 people sat around a table playing it, and one person has the best view because they get to see everything the right way up, and everybody else has to see it. It's nice, but they're looking at it the wrong way." I said, "Well, what if the design of the cards allowed everybody around the table to get an equally good view?" So when I spoke to Tristam, and we were talking about the concept. And we were going with potentially sort of like geometric designs and stuff that look nice from different, all different angles and stuff. But I said to him, go and do your thing. And he came back and he did this island, and it had the reflection, and it was just an absolute bonus, because we're like, okay, that looks great from that side and from this side, and that's a nice touch. That's a nice one. Ooh. Have you muted? I can't hear you, Bess.
Oh yes, sorry.
Oh.
Anyone who is watching might be able to see a wee small thing of the cards there.
Yes.
Yes, I clearly want to do that and get rid of. Oof, I don't know. Maybe this one. Okay.
Nice. So this is a really fun game to demo, particularly because I'm a strict rules lawyer. When I'm demoing, I won't have anybody sort of giving stuff away. So people are there going, there's a lot of angst that they're trying to keep inside.
It's kind of like, I guess there is always the question of whether people enjoy this lack of communication, isn't there?
Sure. Oh yeah.
Because for me personally, I've got to admit, I'm not a big fan of Hanabi. I'm sorry.
No. I mean, that's a really.
I kind of feel like, for me, Hanabi. Oh my gosh, can I undo that? No, I can't undo that. Oh yeah, because I've already shown it to you, and anyway, Board Game Readers doesn't allow you undo. Oh my gosh, that's a terrible move. Why did I do that? I'm going to discard that one, I guess. But yeah, what was I talking about? So I can't remember now.
Non-communication.
Oh yes, because when you're trying to curb your enthusiasm in Hanabi, it's like, hey, I can't say anything. I don't want to say anything. But if I do express pleasant surprise or delight or something like that, then it's kind of like I've spoiled the fun for everyone. Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. I don't really.
I'm sorry, Alex.
I haven't had that too much with Tranquility. I think the non-communication is really what makes this interesting. It's a fairly simple puzzle. If you could just tell people what you wanted to do, then yeah, that'd be really dull. So I like that sort of that tension between it's up to the group to say. It doesn't matter. You squealed a little bit when somebody put something down. That's not the end of the world.
And here, I think that because there's not a big thing of, oh, what have you got here? And it doesn't affect things quite so much.
Okay.
We might I don't know. There's a possibility that we might be able to get this.
Yeah, you'd think so, wouldn't you? Oh dear. Well, I have some bad news on that score.
Is it literally impossible?
No, but I had to discard 2 cards.
Oh, that is unfortunate. I will discard that one. There we go. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So in an ideal world, absolutely ideal world, this would take us 12 cards. It's unlikely to take us 12 cards. But I believe we've got...
this is painful.
Almost double that number. Okay. I discard 1 and... Oof. Well, that one's clearly the worst. There are definitely some simpler decisions now.
Yes, I'm wondering if we've knocked off some cards that we need. Let's see.
It's possible. Ooh, exciting. Because I've got this.
Very nice, yes.
We just need 2 more cards, and then a finish, and then we will have won. And hello, Bodhi, it is lovely to see you.
I'm not helping you here, Bez. I'm very sorry.
And oh yeah, Stream Elements reminds us to turn around and do. Only 1 to go. If we get to something between 60 and 6, so 1, 2, or 3, there's 3 possibilities. Firstly, Stream Elements reminds me to do a wee bit of stretching and get out of the seat, because you don't want to be sitting too long in this day and age. Remember, everybody, to take care of your body. And Alex is talking about bending the rules, but I'm not sure how I feel about that. Oof.
Okay.
I would. That doesn't sound okay to me, Alex. I'm just saying. Oh my gosh, have we lost?
We have. We've between us, we've discarded 61, 62, and 63.
That is unfortunate. Well, I still liked playing with you, so I'm giving you a thumbs up.
Good.
Oh, that was. Let's propose a rematch. It's. I think this might be the first ever cooperative game I've ever played on Board Game Arena.
There aren't many. Yeah. Oh, yes, there we go. Yes, well, yes, I think there was another one. It might be. Is it not Hanabi? No, I don't know.
And Alex says, that one's particularly egregious, but I do like the more strict approach for a more difficult puzzle. So while we're waiting for that for a wee bit, yeah, what's going on with this new game? Tell us quickly, is this another putting things in order game?
Yes, so it's called Tranquility, the Ascent, as you can see on your screen. Although technically the box currently says Tranquility Ascent, but it will say the Ascent. Yes, so it's reminiscent of this, the original Tranquility. I think it takes it up a notch, personally. I think it improves it. Because in a way, it's more restrictive in that, we've got a 6x6 grid here, and you can literally play anywhere. With the new version, you're building this pyramid. So you have to start in the bottom left. Each row is a separate entity, but you still have the discarding when you're placing next to things, and it forms this really nice triangular pyramid shape as you play. So yeah, I think it's probably a bit more difficult, but I think it's probably more interesting as well. And I've had people who have played both now, and they say it is different enough to warrant existing. It's not just a redo. We're not saying we need some more money, therefore we'll just release the same game. It's got different. It's in a way it's very different. It just keeps that core mechanic of placing cards next to each other. And discards and non-communication, and after that is fairly different. Ooh.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the case with lots of games that, once you've done it once it's been out for a while, you'll always have new ideas of how you could have designed this. And
the funny thing is that neither James nor I particularly intended to do a sequel. It just happened. It popped into James's brain, and we just ran with it.
Okay. Let me do that.
Okay. Okay. I have no choice. Down goes the start card. So you'll see in the 2-player game, before we discard 8 between us, you always discard 8 no matter how many people are playing. But in the 2-player game, you each draw 2 more cards, because essentially once somebody's played the start card in a 2-player game, you've then got 9 cards between you, and you have to discard 8 of them. So it gives you get some extra cards to choose from to discard.
That makes lots of sense. I guess are there any rules about note taking? Because in theory, I might want to take the notes of the cards that have chucks away myself.
I would think that would. I mean, it doesn't say you can't in the rules, but I would think that's very much going against the spirit. You know, you're not meant to be able to tell what you've discarded and what other people have discarded.
Oh no, not for me to share with you, just for myself, for my own memory.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, so one of the reviewers, Jason Perez, who does One Stop Co-op Shop, and he's a Dice Tower contributor, he felt like he had to remember what was going into his discard pile. And that's the only... I try and remember, you know, I'll have an inkling, like if I've discarded 2 or 3 cards in the 30s, I'll probably remember some of that. But I'm not trying to remember specific cards that I've discarded, because the game is forgiving enough for you to say, okay, you know, we've got 36 gaps, but we've got 80 cards, so we can fill gaps if we play well. So for me, it's not a memory game at all. So I suppose all I would say is that by basically writing down what you've discarded, you're effectively saying, well, it's kind of a memory game, and I want to remember what's in my discard. In which case, you might as well just look through your discard. Ooh, let's go.
There is always that question about trackable hidden information. Okay, let me get rid of this one.
Okay.
And Hexy Beasts in the chat says, that's one thing with Board Game Arena. They don't cater to solo or co-op that much, but Rallyman does work solo. And Alex says, makes me think of the game, or Shadows over Camelots. Oh yes, Shadows over Camelots, where you can say how much, but you can't give an exact number. So you can say, oh, I can help a little, or I can help the most possible, or I can help almost the most possible, which, yeah, exactly, it quickly devolves. So, Alex says, yeah, if you've discarded a 1 or 2, we might be in trouble at this point, for sure.
Yes, but
I did do that early enough that
you played it at a point where there were no discards.
Yeah.
So basically, we'd only be in trouble if neither one of us is paying attention, because we know that the 1 and the 2 are in there. Although one of the variants taking out random cards at the start. So if you do that, then you probably wouldn't play the 3 in that spot, just in case you had lost the 1 and the 2. There you go. There's the 2.
I was tempted to wait for the 1 just so that we'd only have to discard 1 card rather than 2, but...
So for me, probably, if I'd started with the 3, I probably would have just put it in the bottom left, just because I'm risk averse. You know that you can't play the 1 and the 2, but they can discard at some point. Let's do...
There's actually something quite nice about knowing what to discard. I almost wonder if there's a potential strategy with just starting with 40 in the bottom left.
Well, what if you don't have any low cards between all the players?
Oh, yes, and then you're just discarding, and... Yeah.
I mean, I've heard of people who've, you know, tried to break the game by saying, you know, so you don't bother with 1 to 30. You start with 31 in the bottom left or stuff like that. I don't think I've come across any strategy that beats judging the board how it is and what you've got in your hand and playing the best from that. I think that is that is the soundest way of playing. You might get a lucky win playing some weird strategy where you just say, I'm not going to play anything over 70, for instance, but I haven't found that to be more effective than just playing in a regular manner. Okay, let's do that one in there.
Okay, so there's only 2 spots between 22 and 32. That 22 to 44, 60. Actually, that 51 to 72, there's quite a bit of space, I'm thinking.
So like I said, when you get different boards and stuff, so in this game, that's the danger zone, is between the 51 and the 72. The rest seem okay so far.
What do you mean by the danger zone, as in?
Well, like between 3 and 19, we've got loads of cards to fit in there. 22 to 44, we've got masses of cards that can fit in that gap. The gap that's most at risk at the moment is that 51 to 72.
And of course, the 45 to 48, I guess.
Well, yes.
Yeah, like those tiny gaps. It's about paying attention.
That's it, yeah. Okay, that one.
Lots of gaps, so yeah, you have to... yep, I think Alex totally inferred what you meant. Oh, one away, nice. What do I play? What do I play? Because I'm thinking that ideally, I am partially thinking like maybe ideally, maybe I'm wrong, but strategically, maybe you want to have things that are one apart and then come back in so that you're... Yeah, so like maybe you start off with 3 gaps between everything, and then you move in, so there's 1 gap between everything, and then you move in at the end.
Yeah, that's basically the perfect game, and you've basically said it. If you play a card, leave a gap, play a card, leave a gap, play a card, leave a gap, and then you fill in those gaps, discard of 1 every time, that would be the most efficient way of playing. But it doesn't hold out like that for long. The best players, after you've played it a few times, the best players will avoid discards for as long as they can. But, and this sounds harsh, but when it comes down to it, you basically, everybody loses when the person who's been least efficient runs out of cards. They can't play. So sometimes I've got 10 cards left in my pile and somebody else has got 2. I know it's not going to be my discards that lose us the game, so I can be more profligate with what I'm putting down.
Yeah, like just now I've got 24 cards and you've got 26, although there's not much in it.
No. There was a bit of a difference in the first game, but that can happen sometimes. Sometimes your hand just isn't helpful, so yeah.
And even though, again, I would ideally play 1 away and then put in the 67 later, because now I'm going... If I got 66 later on, I'd have to play it. But hey, as you say, we can't have perfection all the time. Oh, it's sad, but there it is.
That's the other thing that you've definitely just done. If we've got an area where there's a lot of gaps to fill and not loads and loads of extra cards, I think you have to be more pragmatic about putting stuff down in which you're going to discard. So placing the 67 there means that I'm definitely not going to play the 66 there and waste a card. I'm not going to get rid of your 67 because you played it there. So I think that's probably a very sound move. Let's... And there. 12.
Oh, people who can see my hands will be thinking, ooh.
Yeah, I'm not looking. I'm thankfully your hand is small enough that I can't really see it without looking, so I'm not seeing your hand.
This is so painful. I do not like either of these options. And like, I know I'm not playing this according to the rules of the game. I am talking, but that wouldn't be the most entertaining thing if I were literally just to be completely quiet. But, what's going through my head, because I'm not talking about the strategy, which is the main thing. So what's going through my head is that, hey, I can play here, but then, actually, people can see my hand. I don't want to get rid of any of these cards, and here I've got to get rid of something. Here I've got to get rid of and it's like just a really painful. But
that's another thing. You could have a perfect hand. All 5 cards are ones that are really good, but that means that you're going to have to discard something that you don't want to discard.
Okay, what I'm going to do is I am going to go there and discard that.
Good.
I was playtesting with someone recently. It was a 1+ player roll and write, says Alex. And their main aim of the game was to go for a perfect score, which is pretty much impossible in that game. It really made me think about how much my gaming motivations differ from other people sometimes.
Yes, you get the perfect gamers. Fortunately, you can't really do that with Tranquility, so it's not something I've had to deal with.
I mean, like, I know there's the whole Ganshon clever folk who say, "Oh yeah, we're going to," oh, this is so painful. Oh my gosh, sorry.
No, this is you're demonstrating another thing, which is some people really like Tranquility and they feel it's quite relaxing and all the rest of it. And then there are other people who say it's a complete misnomer. It should be called frustration or stressful or.
I like how you're cackling away there, basically.
Okay.
Oh, I'm guessing from your side that's I kind of messed you up.
No, it's not too bad. It's not too bad at all. You actually made my life easier in that one, so frustration was taken. So the idea of the name of Tranquility is it's the name of the boat, actually. But obviously, we're playing it. If you're very strict, you're playing it in near silence. So that was the idea of Tranquility. It's not that this is meant to be a completely serene gaming experience.
I don't know if you could have a completely serene gaming experience if you're playing to win. If there's a measurement of success, there's always got to be potential for failure.
That's a fair
point. Yeah, at that point, aren't you always going to have a wee bit of tension? And
yeah, no, I completely agree. Let's do that and that.
Oh, okay. I will still go here. 14 and 16. So in the game, I mean, it's really interesting how in the real game, I wouldn't be able to glance down and say, oh yeah, I've got 14, you've got 16. But how Board Game Arena does kind of give you those numbers so easily found at a glance. How do you feel about that? Do you think it affects the game a lot?
No, I don't think so. I mean, so it doesn't tell you what you're discarding. That would be the key. I think, generally speaking, like in Tranquility, turns are quite quick normally. So you need to be paying attention. Like if you've got a few players sitting around your table, if you're not paying attention to what they're doing, then how do you know what you're going to do on your turn? So as somebody else plays, they either close off an opportunity for you or they open up a new one. So I'm constantly going, okay, you played the 7 into that gap there. So that means, oh, maybe I can play the 6 or the 8 or whatever. So I think that's okay.
And Hexy Beast asks about a gentle rain. I'm actually going to look that up.
Yeah, it's not one I'm familiar with.
Gentle rain game. Okay.
Let's do that.
Oh, this is the new one. Yeah, I've seen it by Kevin Wilson. Let me see if there's... No, see, that's the thing. We were having this discussion. I go there and there's literally no of the images that I'm confident I'm allowed to show. But if anyone else wants to see it, then I will paste the link into... Yeah, which... But Hexy Beast, I assume you're saying that it's a bit similar. Gosh darn it. Darn it. Huh. Do you think that this game is actually easier with one person?
Yes, I think in general it gets harder the more players. But the good thing about the game is that there are lots of ways of making the game harder. So if you started learning this and you're playing 5 players, yeah, you're set up to fail a little bit. That's pretty tricky. But but at any other player count, yes, solo it's easiest. I would expect if I was playing this with James, the designer, we would expect to win this, 2-player with no alterations, none of the mini expansions. We'd be looking to win, I don't know, 97, 98 games out of 100. But throw in an expansion or randomly remove a few cards at the start, and the win rate plummets. So there's a lot of ways to make the game harder. Now that's not bad. However, let's. If you can see my hand.
Hexy Beast brought Gentle Rain up because it's about serenity and relaxation. And what it says apparently is keep score or don't, just relax. I would have to read the rule sheet, but that sounds like kind of... I don't know if I'd react well to that, to be honest. I feel like I'd be thinking, why didn't the designer make up their minds? Do you know what I mean? Why do they leave it on us to decide what to do?
Yes, I've heard people talk about the variant rule, and we're kind of like, yes, the publisher couldn't make their mind up one way or the other, so they said you can do either. And I don't think I've come across a game where I thought I can genuinely see why you couldn't choose between one or the other. I feel like, yeah, just choose one.
I mean, if it's a case of, okay, do this first, and then once you've learned more, do this other thing, and then once you've learned more, do this other thing, that makes a bit more sense to me.
I kind of have to question, what's the point of a game if you're not worrying if you're winning, basically? So if it's a game with scoring...
No, because then what are you saying? That RPGs aren't a game?
Okay, well, then not RPGs, but in terms of a board game where you have a clear win goal, RPGs are about the experience, not a win. If you're trying to play a game that has a clear winning condition, then I think there needs to be a way of you're measuring how you're doing versus that condition.
And Alex mentions Telestrations, which is a good shout. I mean, I know that there's a win condition in Telestrations that you can absolutely play, but...
I haven't played it.
Telestrations, where it's a party game, you either draw a thing or you describe what's on the board. Oh my gosh, we might lose again.
So that sounds pretty much like charades or something like that, in which case I'd say, again, yes, fine. It is a game that you play at a table, but it's more of a communal activity that you do for fun rather than, oh, I really want to win this, I would say, in my opinion.
Sure, and it might be that a Gentle Rain isn't a game that you say, oh, brilliant, you've got one of the cards. Yeah, I have to discard again. I do apologize.
Oh dear, this is looking ominous. Better hope it's in our draw piles.
I have to discard again. Oh. Oh, that's it. Is that it? We've lost. We've lost.
Oh, we had that one. How did we end up not filling 2021?
Well, yeah, I guess we discarded those 2 cards at some point.
Yeah, it's just interestingly looking at the board most of the way through that, I was thinking, yeah, we're nailed on for this one.
Wow. It does make me feel like if I were... I know you say you don't have to remember the things, but if I were to play that again, if I were to play it, let's say, Alex, if you wanted to play it, or maybe another day if I were to play it myself, I think that I would definitely be, we're both losers. Oh, I just noticed you've got 0 victory points at your own game.
Yeah, that's not right, but I don't know why it says that, but
maybe because you've just lost so many times that.
Well, no, but when I was testing it, so I was doing.
Oh, because I think until it gets actually published, you don't gain the.
But it is now. It's out of beta. So
Yeah,
yeah.
but I mean, the games that you played when it was in alpha wouldn't count, if you know what I mean.
Well, why is it counting them as losses then? Is my question, because I haven't played that many games since it was published.
Oh no, you start at 0, and we've both got 1 point.
Oh right, no, I think I know what they changed how the ELO works on Tranquility because there was some kind of outcry. I wasn't aware of this, and then somebody said that there was a news article on Board Game Arena about how they've changed it because basically, you know, like people have said, BGA is not really set up for co-ops and stuff. So people were getting all up in arms about how do you measure, you know, because rankings, it's all about, you know, oh, I'm winning in this or I'm not winning in that, and co-ops is a little bit different. So I think maybe when they reset how they were doing the rankings, they've just given me 7 losses out of 7.
I mean, everyone does start at 0, and you have to make your way up to 100, which is regular player. Hello, Misty Mountain. I was just trying to work out from the photo if I knew who you were. But Misty Mountain Girls 87, and thank you for joining us, says, how is this game? I haven't played this one yet. Well, obviously, Peter is incredibly biased. I've just played it for the first and second time. I mean, I play pretty much anything on Board Game Arena until I win. That's the truth. But I do feel, ooh, there's something that I can do differently. It's not like, I feel a little bit of agency. I do feel a little bit of control. I do feel like, you know what? Also, the fact that it is solo playable, so you could go up and play it on yourself, which is very interesting. And then the question becomes, what if you are only going to buy the actual game to play solo? Why would you Why would you buy it? Why not just play the Board Game Arena version,
Yeah.
which I think does, and it's, I mean, I guess at a certain point, if you've enjoyed it that much, then you might want to play with the real things on the table because maybe the real cards give you a bit more tranquility. But how have you found that? I mean, this has just gone on Board Game Arena very recently, but how have you found it as a marketing exercise?
Yeah, well, really good, anecdotally anyway. It certainly felt to me like just judging by people's habits of playing games on stuff like Board Game Arena and then talking about it on Board Game Trading and Chat UK, there were a lot of people trying games on Board Game Arena, playing them with their friends remotely, and then buying copies because they'd enjoy the experience. And I think that is exactly how things are playing out. And I know I've done that. So if I've played somebody else's game and I've really enjoyed it, even if I had access to their game, I might consider getting a copy. So I've got it. So yeah, in terms of marketing, I think it's awesome because, you know, I didn't even have to develop it. I'm not a coder. You know, lovely guy Bruce in Canada wanted to develop his coding, and he said, can I do Tranquility? Fantastic. So as an opportunity, you know, we already had it on Tabletopia and Tabletop Simulator, but this, you know, this reaches far wider. So I think, yeah.
I'm just thinking how, in a sense, you kind of want to have 1 space, 3 spaces, 7 spaces, maybe 15 spaces, or maybe like 7, 8, 9 spaces. Like, you want to have odd numbers of spaces between cards for sure. I'm also thinking about how doing that does require you to have a bit more memory going on. Oh my gosh, we just got raided. Oh my gosh. Hello, Joanne, and thank you so much for raiding. So Joanne is a wonderful friend. Alex, if you could do a wee shout out, I would very much appreciate it. So Joanne, thank you very much for coming and bringing over your people. Hello, Joanne, and thank you for the raid. I want you to know it's appreciated, whether it's morning or evening. What I normally say is whether it's breakfast or bedtime. Either way, it's a meeting of minds. But the interesting thing here is that for me, it's neither of those things. And for Joanne, who's based in America, it is also neither of those things. was it sometime in the middle? But today we are playing a board game, and we played it on BGA. The game was published by Peter below, and now Peter will say hello.
Hello.
Excellent. Thank you for making the song true. So yes, welcome, Liv. It's it live on a mountain. It says thank you for very much for joining, and thank you, Andrew Gill 86776, and yes, check out Joanne with all the love. And there you go. It is almost noon. But yes, we're just kind of finishing up, and it feels like a very nice meditative game, but at the same time, if you want to win, you've got to really remember everything. I know you said it's not a memory game, but I kind of disagree.
Oh wait, no, I can't tell you how you should play it. I think there's a good reason. It's not a memory game, according to Board Game Geek. It's not a game about, in my opinion, and in the designer's opinion, and most people, and I've seen a lot of people play this now, most people are not memorizing what they're discarding. I know the odd player can do that, but what kind of makes that pointless, unless you're playing solo, let's say you're playing like 3 or 4 players, even if you keep track of what you're discarding, you've got no idea what other people are discarding. So that's what makes it not a memory game. For me, it's a mitigation game. You're looking at the board the whole time going, okay, where are the best areas for me to play? Where are the hardest areas to fill? So like we identified, it was like 51 to 72 was a big gap. So we were mindful of that. And then somehow, despite that, we ruined our game down in the 19 to the 22 range. So for me, I if you were playing this purely as a solo as a solo puzzle, then you could argue it's more of a memory game. But I don't think you need to do that to be good at this game. It's that's a different way of playing it, and you could try that, but it wouldn't work for me because I couldn't remember.
Yeah, as you say, it requires, as with any game, everyone at the table needs to be sort of playing it for a similar reason. And I think I will definitely be, playing it myself. Maybe I'll give it another, trying to remember if I had any plans for... Oh, yes. Friday, I'm actually joined by Benita, which should be lots of fun, and I might be doing... But yeah, at some point I'll be coming back to this, and I could imagine myself with solo, let's be honest, I'm probably going to beat it because it's easier the fewer people you have, which it's kind of unfortunate that that's inevitable. There's not much way to do that. You just have to kind of accept. I wonder if there could have been maybe a few more cards to say, oh yeah, like if you've got 5 players, just have 1 to 100.
Well, I'll tell you why it's easier with more. Okay, it's not really, but I think generally, the lower the player count, the more you're going to win. And I'm going to say that that's different to it being easier, and that it comes back to my point that you lose when the weakest player loses. So if you are playing 5 players, and you have 1 player who is constantly discarding more than everybody else, you're going to lose because that player is not going to be able to take a turn. It's not that it was necessarily harder with 5. You've got the same numbers, you've got the same grid, and you've got the same ways of discarding stuff. It's just you have that stronger risk of there being a weaker player. I think that's all it is.
No, I think it's also that you have this... I think in my mind, I'm fairly sure I discarded a 21. Let's assume I did. And in retrospect, maybe you discarded at some point a 20 and you didn't think too much about it. Maybe if I'd been the only person, I'm not saying I would have definitely managed to do this, but maybe if I were to get to 20, I might have been thinking a bit more about it. If I'd done the 20 and the 21, then, because you have all the information passing through your hands, yes, the cards go in a random order, but you have all the information. And I think that's where the added difficulty comes from, the breakdown in information flow.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree that solo is the easiest because you have perfect information. After that, I think 2 to 5 pretty much comes down to the weakest player. I don't think it actually... Yeah, I think that's... I've explained myself, but yes, I think apart from the perfect information of the solo game, so all I'd say to that is, and when I played this with people, in a physical capacity, when we're demoing this, we usually take out maybe 4 random cards, and we often stick in the sea monsters, and they wipe out some of the islands. What that does is that removes the potential of that perfect information. So if you're a player who could remember every single card you discarded, I'd say to you, okay, take out 8 cards at the start of the game. You no longer have that perfect information. You now have to play with the mitigation of the board rather than it just being a purely memory exercise.
Because... And I've just clicked the rematch option, but I'm not actually wanting to play it again right this moment. But we had this beginner thing where it stopped us from making gaps that can't be filled in, which we wouldn't do, but I guess it prevents a misclick. Remove island cards. So that's what you talk about. It's just removing a bunch of random things, which definitely would make it more difficult. Can you talk about what the sea monster cards do?
So you shuffle in, depending on how hard you want it, between 3 and 5 sea monsters in the deck. So you won't have them in your hand at the start, but after that they could come out at any time. What happens is you have to play them, so you can't discard them, and they just get rid of one of the cards on the board. So basically, and I said to you before we went on air, I said, theoretically they make the game harder because they're going to force you to play at least, let's say you've got three sea monsters, you have to play the sea monsters, so that's going to wipe out 3 cards, so you have to play at least 3 cards more, and therefore you're probably going to discard more. But if somebody misplays, and this is one of the reasons why we put them in for demos, if somebody misplays early in the game, you can actually use a sea monster to get rid of a card that could actually be making the game more difficult. So like if somebody... like I've played this with my family, and bless her, my mum might put a card down, we're all wincing, going, pretty much just lost the game because you did that. If you've got the sea monsters, you could actually get rid of that, and that might actually help you.
So Alex, I'll very much like this pun. And for those who don't know, the board games well enough, Simon being a company, Cool Mini or not, they used to be called. But yeah, I mean, having just played it a couple of times, I've really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for joining me, and it has been such a delight. And yeah, it feels like definitely a sort of classic game, something that's very approachable. It feels very, I don't know, yeah, feels like for someone who's just wanting something nice and kind of relaxed.
Yes, kind of relaxed is how it, yeah.
But potentially frustrated, depending on how much weight you put into winning the game.
Absolutely, yeah.
It has been lovely, and I want to say one more thank you very much for joining me, and I like to remind people where they can find us. So, starting off, Peter, where do you like to be found?
Well, Facebook or Twitter, you can... Facebook, Board Game Hub will find us. Twitter, you have to be quite specific with Board Game Hub UK. Yes, our website is boardgamehub.co.uk. That's the best place. And you've got a link there for Tranquility: The Ascent, which is the sequel that's coming up on Kickstarter end of next month. So we haven't talked too much about that, but it's reminiscent, but a very different experience. Probably, I find a more fulfilling gaming experience, really.
One question: are you going to? What are your BGA plans for Tranquility Ascent?
It's a good question. As of today, we have a full working version on Tabletop Simulator again, so that backers can go and play that, or potential backers can go and play it. I hope it will go on there at some point, but I don't intend it to be until after, hopefully, we funded, after the campaign. But yeah, I'd love to have that on BGA as well. Yeah.
I found so, and for anyone who isn't like where you can find me everywhere as Stuff by Bez on Twitter, Instagram. Search for Stuff by Bez on Facebook and YouTube, and stuffbybez.com/Discord if you want to chat about making games and all sorts of things. I am talking to a couple of people privately, exploring the notion of getting Couple up on Board Game Arena. And that I see that as something that I want to do before the Kickstarter. Let people play it and let people have a go and say, yeah, play it and have fun with it. Because I know, I don't know if you saw Crazy Farmers and Les Clôtures Électriques, which was on Kickstarter, and then it was on Board Game Arena just before, and they said, hey, this is the game. It's now in its final phase, and also there's the other thing. And it went on beta quite a bit beforehand, but then they pushed it into finished state at the same time as the Kickstarter, so it gave them a wee bit of a buzz. And I think that's a really smart way to do it. And especially if you've had it on beta for a bit of time, people have started to get into it. I don't know.
I can see the argument. For me, it doesn't feel appropriate. Well, not inappropriate, but I feel it feels less appropriate to have. We want to make a physical product. We're trying to sell a physical product. I feel really weird. Let's say, for whatever reason, Tranquility the Ascent didn't fund. So we've now got this online version of a board game that doesn't exist. That feels a bit weird to me. For me, that's what Tabletop Simulator is for. If you're really keen, you want to try out a game, go get Tabletop Simulator, try the mod on there.
But maybe you just don't like the way that things play in 3D. Maybe you're Bez and you just really hate using Tabletopia and Tabletop Simulator.
Then you can judge the game based on.
I'm not asking you to do it just for me. I'm genuinely curious about your marketing.
Well, the other thing is it's up to the developer. Are they interested in putting? If I could do the coding, then maybe I'd be tempted to put it on BGA myself. Is Bruce in Canada? Is he going to be interested in putting on a prototype version on Board Game Arena? Nothing's finalized. It's not even a published game. Might decide it's not worth his time.
Yeah, that's a point. And I guess that, in a way, is really the advantage that I have with the L deck. Because, yes, Couple as, the Couple deck doesn't exist, but still, the Couple rule set has been published. You can play it with the previous editions of the L deck. It's even been mass-produced as part of that deluxe thing. So it's kind of like, even if... Invisible or Pitebell or any of the games, even if they don't exist, there's the question of if it's a game for a game system, at what point is it a game enough to go on Board Game Arena? And I think at some point it's really going to come down to at what point can you entice someone into doing it for you.
Game systems, I think, slightly different question, but it's a good question. And James and I chatted about it, and we just weren't sure. So we on that side of it, we weren't sure. We'll see how it goes.
That I can totally understand. Now, for everyone else who's out there, this is the end of the show, and I have one last thing where I like to say, so over to you. What are you up to? You can share, but only if you want to. So do you have any dinner plans, anything that you're up to this evening, or if you're in what are you up to after this show? Go for it, Peter.
I have a good answer. This is a good day for it because Tuesday evening, a local friend, he's been in our bubble all this time, he comes over. He's a vegetarian, so it stretches me. So I cook a vegetarian dinner tonight. It's okra and coconut curry.
That sounds fantastic. I am slightly jealous.
So we'll eat that, and then I'm hoping that we might play something, perhaps Alubari or something in that line. Perhaps,
The kind of spiritual successor for
Snowdonia.
By Tony Boydell. Now, I am personally going to go to the hospital, see my friend who I talked about this morning, who's unfortunately been hospitalized for a wee bit, and just over a day and a half, let's say, and we'll kind of see what happens to my friends, but at least I'll pop over in a wee bit. And of course, I've got lots of streaming, and if you want to know my streaming, check out that link. Alex might play some Habba games this evening. And of course, yeah, playing Alubari and Coconut and Okra. I don't know which one sounded nice, but let's go with both of them. For my streams, I am doing a Tuesday night thing. I don't know if Joanne is joining me this Tuesday, but we are going to be playing at Facts and a Half. We're going to be playing a game where people share facts or facts about themselves, which might actually be lies. It's all about unbelievable truths and believable lies. Oh, brilliant. I'm looking forward to having you. Awesome. Thank you. And so, yes, we will be sharing stuff. And tomorrow I am making a game or working on a game with Tiz. On Thursday, I am meeting Tanya Floker and playing something on Friday. We are sharing. Anyone can jump in on video. We're talking about good memories. That's the nominal topic. And then I am playing a game with Benita Kuar, and I'm quite excited to meet her. And so that's basically it. Once more, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, everyone in chat. You've been so lovely.
Thank you for having me. It's been lovely.
Aww. And even if this bit doesn't make much sense, I am going to very quickly scout on Twitch to see. Oh, there we go. Duchess. I am going to raid Duchess. A friend of the show who does tonight. I think Duchess is going to do colouring and is just a lovely person. And then Duchess will raid Runa, and Runa will raid back here. And when I come back
and round it goes.
And yes, the love goes round and round. But for now, there's only one thing left to say. And that one thing, as always, is to say bye, 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 bye. This is the goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye, 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 bye. This is the goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye, Joanne. Bye-bye, Alex. Bye-bye, Peter.
See ya.
Bye-bye. And now I'm going to stare at you for about 10 seconds.
Hold that pose.
Awkward. Awkwardness. Do you feel awkward?
I'm just not looking at you. It's fine.
What, have you switched to a different screen already?
No, I'm just looking at my handsome face. You know. I find myself doing that sometimes. I don't know why. I don't consider myself handsome, but sometimes I just do it. You know.
I know what you mean. Like sometimes, oh, how do I look? Do I look okay?
Yeah, I don't know if it's. Yeah, for me, I don't know. I suppose most of the time I'm not looking at myself. So you just, you know, occasionally it's interesting to go, oh yeah, okay.
Well, bye-bye again.
Take care.